Hey guys, thank you so much for joining the session. In today's session, we will be discussing on .NET 8 minimal API. How do we do the CI/CD process? The entire code commit, we'll do the code commit, code build, code deploy, and then do this entire thing using the CI/CD pipeline. That's the pipeline. Let's see this. Let me share my screen and give couple of links. Okay, I think my screen is in share. Just give me a minute. Let me show you. This is my GitHub repo. So let me give this link over here. I'll give this link and the markdown, the demo script of this and link to the code, everything is given in this markdown for today's session. We can see this. So I'll copy this and copy this and I'll paste this also here. Okay, so that is done. So let's see what is that we are going to do today. So we'll see the code commit, code build, code deploy. This is one block, and all this getting included as part of the pipeline, the AWS Code Pipeline. So we'll see step by step. And apologize if I do any mistake. I'm still a learner. So let's start. A lot of things to discuss. And if you see that, the previous one, code commit, code build, and I'll add the link for the code deploy also, because you see this. Here is this playlist. I'll create a new playlist for 2024. This is available as of now. It is available in the in this playlist. If you see in this playlist, you have. If you come here, you will see this code deploy, code build, and code commit. Those things are here, but I'll create a new playlist for this. So let me come back here and we'll see step by step. Now let's discuss about the .NET 8 minimal API template and what is that we are using it. First, let's see that. And then we'll proceed further. So if you come and see this is a minimal API template. Let's spend some time on this before we proceed further. And I have this on my local. I opened a terminal and I'm seeing this is the branch on which I am there right now. So let me come back to this one and let me check if it is having any of those files on the server which is not available on my local machine. One thing I need to update is the links of the previous session for the code deploy, which I'll do it. So you can see that's the branch which is pointing. And let's spend some time on this one. So we see it is in .NET 8, and let's come back and see the NuGet packages. So when it comes to the NuGet packages also, we can see we are okay. So I don't want to do the last minute changes, but if you see, there are a couple of things. Oh, it's good that let's do it this last moment change. I mean, if it fails, it fails. Okay, so I'm bumping up to 806, which is the latest version. Let's see that .NET Info. The version is 805. And where is that? runtime, you can see this. Host SDK is installed is this, and under the runtime, we should see it as 806, but we updated the packages. It's good. Let's do this, and I'll keep it here. And let's try this at the local instance. Let's see this, how it is executing. So let's give it a minute, and it executes. Then I'll walk you guys through the API. Now I got a couple of hello world routes and the courses route also. So if you see, if I click on this courses, and before clicking on that, I just wanted to show you the logs, seri logs, which is getting displayed over here. And then we will go back and click on execute. And once we come and see this, it is executing the endpoint API courses. And within 374 milliseconds, it was able to execute. You see this executing the endpoint, and it is invoking the business layer, repository layer, and it's sent 200, and the type is of API response DTO as JSON, and execution is finished. So I can see that. Again, if I execute it for the second time, now you can see that from 374 milliseconds to 65 milliseconds, it is pretty fast. So at this point of time, this is working. And another way we can test is through the Postman. Postman is another way to test it, and other way to test it is using this scripts HTTP here, and you can see this is now if I do, that means it will hit the root endpoint, and I can send this request here. We'll see the output here itself. Now we see the API courses request. You see the response has come. Now you can see this is being enabled because of this HTTP HTTP client, like a Postman client. It's not this one. Just give me a minute. I'll locate that real quick. Let me minimize this. That is because 1 second. It is the extension. It's possible because of this. Yeah, this one. REST client. REST client is an extension. You can see that the REST clients supports these kind of things. You can create much powerful scripts to test your API. So this is .http. You can see that .http file, and usage also you can see. You can call any endpoint and specify the content, and the same thing you can do get, post, delete, all these things. You can just go deep into the weeds to find out. Here we are making 2 GET calls and 1 POST call, and POST call is having the JSON. It is very, very simple. You can see on the right side itself, you can see the output, the same thing we are seeing over here. So this is REST client. I'm sorry, it's not HTTP client, it is REST client. So that will help you if you want to include your test scripts to test your API. You can bundle it along with your API. And now if you see that we have the program class, and inside the program class we have very few lines where we are configuring the services and also configuring the HTTP pipeline. So you can see here in this extensions, there are two classes. One class is for configuring the services collection. You can see we are adding the services. And the second class is for configuring the HTTP pipeline. So whatever the SchoolDB context is there, we are creating it and also loading the sample content only if it is the development environment. That means once we host it in the environment, production environment, at that time, we will see an empty array. We will not see the sample data, whatever we are seeing, the seed data, whatever we have injected in our development environment. We will not see this. We will see an empty array. We'll see the difference. And then we are mapping the hello world controller and hello world endpoints and the courses endpoints. So similar to controllers, I just created the folder called endpoints and I moved all this minimally pay endpoints into this. You can see courses has got one endpoint and hello world has got 4 endpoints, which we can see over here. So API version 1 API, and this you can see the hello world route, and this is the route. So if you see, this is all coming from the constant file. From here, you can see the hello world routes. There are 4. You can see this is the constants is a partial class. And within that, we have route, hello world, API, and API v1. So instead of having the string literals floating all around, we just created a constant file and then we moved everything over here so that it will be easy for us to maintain the changes. And rest, it is pretty simple. In the application core, we have interfaces for business and repository. And in the configuration, we see the automapper configuration. So courses to DTO, and that's the one. And here in the data, you see the entities. The base entity is the one which is something similar to the auditing fields or which are needed to track. Like GUID is very common for all the entities which are getting stored. ID and who created, who modified it. So if you see that course class is using this base entity, and you can see this is a course ID to uniquely identify, but whatever the ID which is here in the base entity, this is the row identifier for that particular data. And we have few other things. Now, if you see that course DTO, when you see pretty similar to the courses, here we don't have the ID. That means the row identification we don't have in this one. And also you see we are using record, which is a little bit of performance improvement over class, because this is, once we load things into the record, we don't need to change it. We just send this across the wire. So we'll not do it. So that's the reason, whatever the fields which we want to send it to a particular client that we are having over here. Now you can see courses, it is having the GUID, the row here. So this is course DTO is to display or goes to the client, from where suppose he wants to modify that, he need to have the row identifier. But at the time of creation, we are not accepting the row identifier. That is getting created automatically and sent to the client. So you see this one is purely the record. So that is about the data configuration we have seen, and the business logic layer is just an implementation of the interface. You can see that. And it is using the repository, the course repository. And there's a default response I just created for us to send some sample messages. Let's close all these things and let's see the DB context and repository real quick. So in the persistence, you can see we have the simple DB context. We have courses. And on model creating, we are saying that builder.apply migrations and new course data. So inside the seed data, you can see that course data is here. And in the configure method, we are seeding this initial information. So this is what you're seeing, the number of rows here in the seed data. And the repository is pretty simple, where you can see that the repository is using the DB context and invoking. So that is about this minimal API which we are having. So I think we have spent enough time on this. Let's go to the next section. So let's click that again, try it, and click on this, and you can see whatever the sample seed data which we have injected, we are able to get it. So we have done the discussion. We spoke about the HTTP file, and the serilogs is pretty verbose. We can add more, but need to be very mindful when we are logging something, and we are not logging any information which might turn to be a security threat. So we need to be a little bit mindful on that, and that's it. Apart from that, everything is good. So now let's come and see the code commit. What is this code commit? Now, if I come back to this one, let me go to the code build, and I'll navigate from there. So let's go to this code commit first. So we'll see code commit, we'll see code build and code deploy, and then we'll see code pipeline. And first thing is the code commit. So here, the version control system, code commit is version control system. And we can create a repository over here. We can specify what is this, and we can enable the code review for Java and Python. That's optional. So we just created a repository, and this is the one, school repository. And inside that, you can see, you can have all these things. You can have the settings where you can specify the triggers or notification, and all these things. You'll be able to see that. And notification is if someone raises a pull request or someone commits to the master, we can create the notification for that. And next thing is we'll see the branches, and these branches, you can see that what are the branch which I created in the month of February and March. I just kept it. I just wanted to show that. Now this is the one which I created last night. So around 9 o'clock, this one. So it is still there. Now if you come to the commit history, you can see that 5 months ago and 3 months ago, I was able to do some commits. So I can see that, and you can come and compare the commits. What is that it changed? So you can see that source commits, and we can compare this with main. Okay, there's no difference. And here you can see the commit visualizer. And inside the commit visualizer, you can see the dots, and you can go to that particular point of time to see what has happened. So here you can see that The extensions Microsoft dependency injection, I removed that and used the automapper. This is deprecated. And the swashbuckle, I bumped it up to 6.6. I bumped it up. So we can go there and we can view the pull requests, all the previous pull requests we can view here. Okay, it's waiting for, that was waiting for open. So now it's used all. So you can see that I didn't keep any approval rules. It's just straightforward. I raise the pull request and I close it. This is the code. And you can see here I can come back to the current branch and I can switch to the main branch. So this is about that. So let's come back to this one and git status. We did some change. So git commit. I said that updated the packages. Okay. And now git status, it shows that, and I can say git log. It shows that updated the packages. This is Saturday today, and this one was on Saturday. And what did I do? Oh, okay, there were other changes. So let's go through those changes. It's giving a pretty much lot of logs. Q means jump out of that, and I say git push. Now that's pushing. Now let's come back to this one, commits, and we should technically see the commit which we did it. All the commits. This commit we are seeing only from the main. Now if I switch back to this one, I should see the commit which I did it 1 minute ago. So updated the packages. Just we did that a minute ago. So this one also we're able to see this one. And now I can, after doing the change, now you should see that there are no red ticks. That means everything got pushed. So let's go to the pull request. And now let's create a pull request. And I want the source is this one, and destination should get merged into the main. I say compare, and there are no merge conflicts. If there are merge conflict, it will show updated the packages, and it clearly shows that from version 8 we bumped it to 8.0.6, and this one 801 to 806. Those two things, and this one is there. So I raised a pull request. Now if I come back to the pull request here, you can see that it is showing in open. Now I click on this pull request 19 and I say merge. I do squash merge and write down my name and I click on merge. Now the moment I do that, it merges the code. Now we can come back to this in the school API. We can come in here and click on this CS proj. So we should see this 806, these two just now we updated. So that means all the code, whatever we have done, we were able to successfully bring it here. Okay. So let's do a little bit of update on our local box so that it will be easy for us to do a change when we are when we want to see the pipeline. Okay, so let me pull those changes. So whatever it was on 29th June. So just now we did it. So it will pull that, see that 30th June. Now let me switch back to this. Now I'm here. This is 36. Now I'm doing the merge the local main into this one. So it did that. So let me push it. So again, we can come back over here and do a git status. It says that everything is clean and all is well updated. So that's cool. So we've seen that code commit process where we create it and we can check out. But when we are checking out, we need to have the credentials. So where do you get this credentials is we need to go to IAM. Without that, we will not be able to get the code. So let's go to the users. And inside this user, under security credentials, we have to come down to this one. This is SSH public key. And this is HTTPS git credentials. And this is what you can see in the markdown file. You see this one, that's the credentials. So you have to create a credentials and use it for the code commit to get deploy. We spoke about the branches, development feature branch and the pull request. Now let's discuss about the AWS Code Commit. So when we see about the AWS Code Commit, Code Build. It's not Code Commit. I'm sorry for that. It's a Code Build. So when we are speaking about the AWS Code Build, what will happen is the artifacts, that means the binaries, whichever it gets generated, has to be stored somewhere. And where we are creating the code build, in the same region. Now, Oregon, I hope I'm pronouncing properly, West US 2. So that means we should have a S3 bucket. Here you can see in the same region where we have the code build. Now the code build in West US Oregon region, and I can see that this buckets, in the buckets also you can see that Oregon, West US 2 in the same region. If not, things will not work. And you can see school API builds. This is where we are storing all the builds. So you can see this. This is yesterday's build, June 29th. Okay. Just to avoid the confusion, what I will do is I will just go ahead and delete this guy. I'll select it and I'll delete so that we will come back and we'll come back and we'll see the latest one getting created. So I'll close this. So at this point of time, we don't have anything. So that's about the first point. We need to have the S3 bucket. Now we'll create a build project. And the build project is pretty simple. You can create the project and we'll name it an additional comment, like whether it has to enable the build badge and all these things which we can see. And source providers is very important. You can have the S3 or AWS Code Commit, GitHub, Bitbucket, GitHub Enterprise, GitLab, and self-managed GitLab. And these are the build agents. Now you can see the on-demand build agent or managed image or EC2 compute. So these are the environments. And the thing is that you have to see the image is the latest one. We have to select it. If it is .NET, then you need to have a different version. So please, we have to ensure that we are checking it. And the service role is very, very important when we are working in this one, because if we don't give the proper permission, things will fail. So build configuration artifact, this is where you want to store, and you can give the bucket name over here. Okay, and the packaging format I'm doing is zip format. So let's see that. I'll come back to this one. And at a high level, we have seen how to create a build project. Now, let me keep it there, and I'll come back to the build project and see the existing one. We can come and click on this, or we can click on view. We can see that all the things. I just click on edit, will not do any changes, but at least we can see we have this in the additional configuration. I just enabled the build batch also, and this is coming from the code commit, and reference is branch, and need to build the main branch. And in the additional path, I'm getting the top one, and on demand managed and EC2. And here is what image I have selected, AWS standard. Okay, for the .NET one, this is the latest, and we said that always use the latest, so that anything which is coming in, it takes care of that. And additional configuration, we can specify the timeout, or do we need any special privileges, or how much of computing power do we need it, and all those things, and use the build spec file. We'll come back to the build spec file, and here we are saying that store it in S3, and we said that enable semantic versioning. So it's different school of thoughts, because every time a build is successfully created, it creates a GUID and stores in that. So we have seen that. Now let's come back to the build projects, and we see it doesn't have anything, the school API builds. Now what I'll do is I'll come back to this one, and I'll say start a build. Now you can see that if I come to school API and build history, the one which is progress. So last was 6 minutes ago when we did the check-in, it did a automatic build. That's because of the CI/CD pipeline. This is because of the pull request, we merged it. Okay. And in the meanwhile, what we will do is we'll go back to EC2 instances. That's where it tries to deploy. I think most probably the previous execution would have failed, because the instance I stopped it. Now let me start this instance. Most probably the previous one is this one. Okay, for 55 minutes, we'll see this. The pipeline. This is for the pipeline, this one. Oh, it's just a build. Yeah, build goes through, and pipeline will fail because the EC2, the virtual machine itself is down. So it will not be able to deploy. Most probably it should fail. And it's still trying to do that. Wow. Oh, okay. It might have the default time. Yeah. Deploy. So it's in trying to deploy that. Okay, that's cool. Let it deploy. Let's not disturb it. So let's come back to the build. And in the build project, let's go and look at it. The school API, it was successfully built. We see this build history, build number 14. Just now it completed, duration was this. So that's cool. And after that, we'll come back to the S3 bucket. And when we do a refresh, you'll see the artifacts has been generated. I can select this and click on download, just to see that what is stored in that. So this is the one. Let's come in here and double click this, and you can see that we have the app spec. This is for the code deploy, and this is the target where we have all the files that we can name it anything. It's not target, it's like publish or binaries or bytes or whatever you want to name. And these are the shell scripts and one web service which we want to deploy. So from that perspective, we know that once the build gets successfully deployed, build will get artifacts get generated. So that is what we are. You can execute this, whatever is there in this target folder, that is what gets generated. So just wanted to show you there. And in the build spec also, we are seeing that we are installing the .NET 8 version. And inside the artifacts, I want the target. That means whatever is there in this publish folder, because we are publishing to the target folder. So artifact, we said that everything inside the target folder copy, and app spec, this is for the deploy, and the script, this is also for the deploy. Now we have seen that, and also we have verified it. Now we have to prepare the EC2 instance. So let me come back to the EC2 instance. It's ready. So let's connect to it. Let me use the browser to connect instead of doing SSH and all these things. It's very easy for me to connect it from here. So it's establishing the connection, and you can see I am in. Now host name and print working directory. And now if I do that, there is something known as school app LA. If I do the school app, you can see the DLLs got updated last night. This one you can see that June 29. Rest of the timestamp, if you see, it's little different, but at least these binaries which are updated yesterday. We didn't do the deployment now. Might be that will go through the previous pipeline. No matter what, we'll come back and we'll do that. Okay, and if you want sudo apt, I'm doing this, but please you guys don't do it, because when you update, if there are some incompatibility or some issues, then your existing code will not work, because this is the demo. I'm taking risk. So that's the one. And another thing what we have to see is we need to create the roles, and we will create the EC2 instance, and we need to have the agents. The code deploy agent has to be deployed. So this is the one, code deploy agent. I've given the links how you get the link of this one. So it's clearly mentioned it here. So how to go and get that the path where you will have it. And you can see the code deploy agent, whether it is running or not. I click on this. So now the code deploy agent is active. So that means it's running. So if the build pipeline, the entire code deploy pipeline pushes it, it will push it. And we have the .NET 8 installed here. So let's see .NET info. It's only the runtime. I didn't install the SDK, just the runtime. So 806, we see this is matching with the NuGet package number, whatever we have updated. So once that is done, we are ready. Now what we have to do is we have to do the code deploy. Now let me come back to this one and close this. I'll come back to the code artifact a little later, and some other things like a notification and few other things are there. We'll come back to that in future episodes, but let's see that. So in this code deploy, we have to understand one thing is first we need to create an application, then the deployment group. Deployment group, I see that as a dev, test, UAT and prod, something like that. And deployment is that particular release or pushing the binaries to this one. And before doing that, what I would like to do is just wanted to ensure that the web API is up and running, whatever the previous one. So the web API is also it is also up and running. So I think it might deploy, the code pipeline might get deployed. Let's see that. But if at all we are seeing the updated binary numbers, no surprise. So first thing what we will do is we'll create an application. So if you see this here, we'll see this school API, and you can see this is showing the deployment when it succeeded. I told you, isn't it? Just now it succeeded because what happened is we did some changes, but it went and it picked it up and it deployed. Good. If you want, we can check that deployment. Who did it? Deployed that CI/CD pipeline. It has gone through as part of the CI/CD pipeline, but we'll not worry about that. We'll come back. So here we can create an application. It's pretty simple. Choose the compute. You want to deploy it to EC2 or container services or Lambda. So that's the thing. So we have created our service, this one application. And after getting into the application, we have to create a deployment group. So deployment group is like which environment, I'm considering it as an environment. Like if you see that deployment groups, I already have dev, and then we have to select the appropriate service role. Service role is very key. And AWS, we have to specify, I mean, in any cloud provider, we have to specify the minute permissions, what it needs, how much it needs. Don't give extra permission, whether it is in place or blue-green updates. I'm doing in place. And environment, EC2, auto scaling or instance, and deployment, how do you want to configure all at once? And do we need a load balancing? And in the advanced options, we can create the triggers, alarms, and rollbacks. So that's about the application and the deployment group. So I have a deployment group here. You can see that school API-dev. So that means my intention is to deploy to a dev environment. You can see those values, and EC2 instance, the one which we are seeing over here, the EC2 code deploy 002. We see the same one here, which is mentioned environment where we want to deploy. So this shows the deployment history. Okay. Now if I come to deployments over here, so we see all those deployments are happening over here. Now I can come back to this one and get into the application, and the deployment group is this one, and create a deployment. That means I want to release it, do a release now. So what I'll do is I'll come back to this one and ls-la, and so okay, there was nothing which has changed these binaries. So that shows yesterday's date, but you can see there was a deployment. Let's see that. Okay, let's see that. Now I create a deployment. I create a deployment now, and I'm selecting the deployment group EC2 and in place. And now revision location. For the revision location, you can come back to the one. It's December DEC4C. That's a GUID, and inside that there is school API. So this one piece, you should be extra careful. I can come in here and select this and copy S3 URI. That's a simple thing to do. I just paste it here, so you'll see that. And the revision file type, is it tar or zip? It is zip. We know that it's a zip file. And deployment description, I'm leaving everything as it is, and I'm clicking on create the deployment. Now again, from application, we know that we need to create an application, and inside the application, deployment groups. That means something like an environment, like dev or test or stage or prod. Now we can come to the deployments, and we see it has been succeeded just a few minutes ago. It just deployed it. You can see the logs. It just ran for 6 seconds, and let's see that. You can see this when we did this binaries, because it just deployed from the artifacts. It picked up the previous one and it deployed. Its date timestamp was 29 June. Now, when we did the deployment, manual deployment, because before to that, we did a code build. Now, when we do a code build, it updates the version of the the bits or binaries. So that's what it updated. So that means all is well till now. So we're able to deploy. Now let's come back and see the code pipeline. Now what is happening is, if you step back and understand, now you do a development and then you create the version control system, whether it is Git or AWS Code Commit. Now you maintain the version using this version control system, and then you create a feature branch, you check in everything, and then you need to build it. And build also, you have agents. Now latest you can create your own agents. A lot of updates are happening, but we are using the Amazon provided agents. And then you need to store the artifacts to S3. There are other options, but whatever I've used, I'm speaking about that. And then you need to use a code deploy to specify the application, what application you want to deploy, and the deployment group. That means for me, it's like an environment, like dev, test, or stage, whatever it is. And we'll go and deploy. It could be the ECS container service, or EC2, or AWS Lambda. And we deploy. For that, we need to have the machine which has to run, and we'll be able to see all these things. Now we have covered all these things. Now we'll come back to the AWS Code Pipeline. So if you come and see this AWS Code Pipeline, it's a pretty decent explanation we'll have. We are using the pipeline type of V2. So V1 is not possible. You have to create an existing service role, or if you have an existing service role you want to reuse for all the pipelines, it makes sense to have it, because all the pipelines will have a same set of permissions. If at all, for whatever the reason, any of the pipeline it needs extra privileges, you will do an audit. Do we need it and why it needs it? But better to have that. And you can create variables. And in the advanced settings, you can see the artifact location, this one. And other things will also come. Let's see the existing one first, the one which we have created. Oh, I'm sorry. So the first is source. So source is like AWS Code Commit, which we have already seen that. And step 3 is build stage. That is AWS Code Build, which we have already seen that. Now deploy, that is AWS Code Deploy. So all these things we will configure. So let's walk through the existing pipeline which I created yesterday. I can see that. Let me click on edit because we're not going to do any changes, but at least we'll be able to walk through it. So one of the thing is execution mode, which is very important. The pipeline type, this is disabled. They said that we can't do it. And queued executions are processed one by one. If you need parallel processing, you can select this. And I don't have any variables and I don't have any triggers. And here you can see that in the AWS Code Commit, you can go and see that I selected the existing AWS Code Commit. So that's what it is pointing to. So we're not editing anything. I just wanted to be doubly sure. Now, here in this stage, we can see that we are going to the code build, which we already have. I just gave a link to this. So already whatever we did in the code commit, we reused it. Whatever we did in the code build, we reused it. And whatever we did as part of the code deploy, I reused it. So now what happened is it's like a CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. Now all these things are put in place. And that's it. So let's come back to the settings one. As we have seen that the key thing here is the notification. We'll come back and we'll do all the missing pieces in this. I'll do one session sometime this year. But next we'll start on the microservices. Enough of this. Let's get into deep into this containerization and microservices. Let's try that. But we can put a hold on this and let's start doing some .NET 8 stuff on the EC2 instances, AWS Lambda, and those things. Let's work on that. Now that's the history. I'll come back to this pipeline, and we can see it is doing a polling. See this? It does polling every 10 minutes. You see, it tries to see if at all there are any changes, then it executes it. So let me come back and see, are we clean here? What is my branch? Okay, so let me again switch back to my main branch and pull the changes. If at all there are other changes which I don't remember. Again, I'll switch back to this. Right mouse click on main and merge any changes. So it says that there is nothing to merge. Now come and do git status. All is well. It's pretty clean. So what I'll do is, just for the sake of this, whatever the test which I have done, I just remove that. And I did that one change. I'm closing everything. And now come back and git status and git commit. Updated the .http file. Okay, git push. Now let's come back and keep a watch on this one. So now we did a push from here. We did a push, and then let me come back here real quick and let's keep a watch on this. See, this was the previous one, and I'll come to code build. I mean, technically, I should come to code commit. So let me come back here. Keep this side by side. I should come back to the code commit to repositories, and inside this repositories, let's click on school API. Okay, And let's create a pull request. The source is 29th June into main. I said compare, and it's pretty clean. Only this file, whatever we added, we removed it. Now I say create a pull request, and it created, and I say merge. I click on the merge. I want a squash commit. Author's name is this. I merge the pull request. Now, once we merge the pull request, now that gets committed into the main branch. Okay, that gets committed into the main branch. Let's see the history. That is 3 minutes 36 seconds ago. Now you see this, the pipeline has a source that is configured for polling. It does the polling, and it should find that there are changes which has to be deployed, and then the moment it finds the change, it will deploy. So you see this, it has updated. And again, if you want something to push manually, you can do a code build and code deploy. And the code pipeline, it does the validation or polling every now and then. And just 0 seconds just now. This 3 minutes 36 seconds, we know that we did that a few minutes ago when we completed the code build. Now this we did a push just now. We did that push. So for that, it identified things that there is a change in the binaries the moment we merged it. So you can see that code commit, it picked it up, and we can view the details of the code build. Build ID cannot be empty. Okay, let's leave the summary. And we'll see that stage, that particular stage is being deployed here. It clearly shows the stage, the indication. That means this is not yet started. This is the one which it is running. And the next one is this one. So in the meanwhile, let's see. I'll copy the public IP of this here and come back. And then I click on that. So that means the hosting is done. And I can come back to this /API/courses. As I was mentioning, we'll see an empty array because we did not enable the seeding in the production environment, so that we put it in an if condition. If the development, if it is a development mode, then do a seed data. If not, we said no. So it will not deploy. Sorry, it will not seed it. Now you can see this just now, whatever it started, the execution history. You can see that is pretty much done. 1 minute 39 seconds. So we can come back here and do a okay. So this is 0427, and you can see that almost 24 minutes. You can see that 30th June 0403. Now the current deployment timestamp, you can see that 0427. So almost 24 minutes. There's a difference between the binary timestamp of the school API versus the current binary timestamp, which has been deployed from the code pipeline. Okay, so that's it from my side, guys. So next, I'm planning the .NET 8 API. How do we deploy to two different EC2s? One is Linux based and one is the Windows based. Let's see that. Thank you so much for joining this session. Hope you have learned something new. Thanks.